I've spent over 150 hours figuring out not just how to stack villages for raid farms, but what caused all the bugs. Hey, I'm a Cattle Wolf, and in this video I'll show you exactly why you're having problems stacking villages and how to fix them. Stick around because I'll cover why you can't push past a certain point, why the far workstation doesn't link, why the bell doesn't link, and exactly which villager actually pushes the boundary. Get any of these wrong and you have to sleepy go bye-bye the villagers and start all over again. So we know that blue is the leader. That is important. Keep the beds separate. I always go with the same bed color for your leader so that when you stack later ones, you don't get confused. Once you get the green particles, then you can break the other bed, but make sure that you've always got at least one bed or workstation connected at any given time. And for this initial push, we're just going to use the two beds. The villagers sometimes will block each other, and if that happens and only one bed is linked, and the one that is linked, he gets blocked, they essentially de-link from both beds and join the previously stacked village. So if you see them both link at the same time after seeing angry particles, you're just going to have to kill them and start all over again. So the line that you take at this point doesn't matter too much. When it matters is when you come closer to the villages that you have already stacked. So you can probably move faster than the 3 or 4 blocks at a time that I'm pushing. So now this line here is the important line. So what we want to do is make sure that this here, so if you can see in the far distance, we've got the villagers on that side. This line here is within 32 blocks of the very first village. We have to enter the village on this stack here. Otherwise, when you get to this point here, which is basically 100 blocks diagonally from this point here. It's not exactly 100, but it's essentially that. You will not be able to push past this point here, and we need to go another 40 or so blocks this way. So you'll do all that work to stack the village, lock them in place, and then bring the other villager all the way down here, and you will be stuck at this point here. It forms a diagonal line at this point here. It's actually more like a radius, but at this point here it appears like a diagonal, so I call it the diagonal boundary. So you'll be able to put, say, a workstation here and the pillar of the bed here, but you won't be able to put, say, a workstation over here. So you may have heard people say, go out further that way and move it around. That works to a certain extent, but it doesn't get us all the way to where we need to be. I have spent ages in creative worlds testing this. This isn't a SMP specific thing. This is some invisible boundary. It doesn't show up in any of the game files. It literally, this point here, if you enter wrongly into the village, you will be stuck here. So we're going to bring the villagers down this line here. You can go any of these 3 blocks, that's fine. You can go further, closer this way, you can have it come in here. As long as you bring it in within 32 blocks of this bed here in that direction, you will be fine, because each of these will then also be within the 32 blocks, and then you won't have to deal with the diagonal boundary down there. This part here is easier during the night simply because the villagers, once they've linked up, they run to their beds. If you are doing it during the day, you can do this section during the day. You can do the whole thing during the day. I would just grab a stack of leaves and then block the path behind you, because they tend to run backwards for some bizarre reason. See, there we go. This guy's already run off. So it's starting to get light. So these villagers are going to be running back. So what I do, make sure that he has joined, go sleep. And then I literally just block it off with these leaves here. Now, if you don't know, you can actually fly through it with your elytra, which is why I use leaves rather than any other block. When you're stacking during the day, the villagers aren't trying to reach their beds, and so they're not going to fail to reach their beds and run into each other and de-link and everything. So that is an advantage of stacking during the day. So as soon as you get the green particles, you can break the back bed and move it to the front. Sometimes these guys need a bit of persuasion. Try not to punch them too many times, though if they get stuck on stairs or something like that, sometimes they need a little vigorous persuasion. But I have accidentally taken them out from time to time with just punching. So just get them close enough and then block it off with leaves, and they won't be able to get further back. You don't need to build a full roof like this. I have done it because I am in a snowy biome and it's so annoying having to deal with snow, particularly with the villagers. When it starts snowing, they freak out. But I would at least put a central one over there so that you can be stacking this at night and not having to deal with the phantoms. It is, however, essential, in my opinion, to have these blocks here as a barrier, because the number of times I've had villagers either knock each other off the edge or they jump up onto a workstation and then throw themselves off the edge, it's just, yeah, it's super annoying. Uh-oh, that's not good. So you saw there, not sure what I did, maybe I wasn't concentrating and they de-linked, but they have just merged villages. So we start all over again. If you're in an icy biome and it's snowing, you will need to put leaves down even if it is nighttime, because they tend to run away. I think the snow freaks them out even if there's a roof over their heads. As long as they're within 16 blocks of the bed, they will be able to see it and link to it. And particularly in the snow, wait until they get to the bed, because sometimes that guy there, sometimes he might get stuck on the feet here and de-link from his bed just as you're breaking this one. It's super annoying. Why am I breaking the beds by punching rather than using an axe? Well, I have a tendency to hit the villagers from time to time, and I would prefer that I don't hit them with my extremely sharp axe. And as we get close to the edge over here, so we're going to come around and then we're going to turn on this specific block here. And it's good to block this off because sometimes they have a tendency to run off in that direction, and it's just annoying having to chase them. So when you bring your beds through, you want to bring it in on this line here. So this line, these are where the pillows of the beds are going to be, and we're bringing it in 2 blocks further away. And we bring it in a straight line like this. Once you have passed this turn here, make sure you block off this area here, because they like to do a runner that way, because villagers. So if you remember from the beginning, the blue bed is our chief. So if we put down a workstation, the blue bed is villager attached to the blue bed, this guy here, he is going to take the profession. So that means that we want to take this villager and his bed all the way down here, and he's the one that's going to be locked in here. We can only push the boundary with the leader of the village. So now with these beds here, make sure that you're doing it in this particular configuration. So we are going to have the final bed here. This is where not the final bed, this is where the leader's bed is going to be. And then you get the follower bed. And we have a block here for the workstation, and then 2 blocks back when we put this. So we got this configuration. Now, I haven't exactly determined whether this makes a huge difference, the exact sequence, but it's worked every time for me, so I'm going to follow this sequence. So we've got leader's bed, follower's bed, we put the workstation down here. This next part here is significantly easier when it is nighttime, because you want the follower to sleep in his particular bed. So then we get the follower, break his bed, put it in place where we want it. He'll come and link to it, grab some leaves. Come on, sleep. Come sleep. Okay, then we right click on him, push him into the water. Come on. Sometimes it takes 1 or 2 times. And if you accidentally click on the bed, okay, locked him in place. And if you accidentally click on this bed, make sure you don't proceed until he has relinked to that bed. So then we just start stair-stepping this forward. It doesn't have to be exactly in line. I have successfully stacked 9 villages so far just by moving them a couple of blocks forward at a time. So you want to follow the right line, but having them next to each other is not important. So some places they say put the bed and then put the workstation here. The most important thing, and you will have to restart if you don't do this, make sure that this villager here, this villager has to be the chief or the village leader. Make sure that this villager here is always connected to either the bed or the workstation or both. Do not proceed if he is not. So we're following this line here. So this is the line that we brought in with the bed, and then the workstation is on the inside. When you reach this part outside where the beds are, make sure you block this off because they have a tendency to like to run back and hang out with their friends. And who can blame them? If you're doing this part during the day, make sure you pay attention to them linking to the bed. I've stacked a lot of these villages during the day. It's unrealistic to expect on a public server or a SMP for lots of people to sleep and all that. So it is completely fine to do all this stacking during the day. Just this initial one here is significantly easier if you can do it during the nighttime. But this one here really makes no difference whether it's nighttime or daytime. So what we're doing here, this line here has to be at least 33 blocks away from the furthest bed. So in this case that is brown. So it is 32 blocks, it is more than 33 blocks out that way. You can go further. Now, because I wasn't paying attention, I don't know for sure whether he has linked to this bed, so best thing to do is to just break it, put it back, and wait for him to relink. Which is why if you're going to do anything, best thing to do is to wait until the fletching table is the furthest one, because you can tell visually whether he has linked. So my markers on here, I've got the bed on this side and the workstation on this side. Honestly, it doesn't make a difference. Main thing is that you follow the line. So for each of these steps, I'm going 2 or 3 blocks away. You can probably go like 10 blocks at a time if you are really in a hurry, but I prefer to have everything all in one place, and I know that this distance works. See, they like to run away. As long as they're within 16 blocks, they'll be able to link to the workstation or bed. As you can see, they don't have to be super close, but various times of the day, so early afternoon or noon or whatever, they like to go and check in on their mates. So you may need to use a few more leaves at that point. So now we get to the end of this long corridor. We want to follow this template here. So this line here is where the workstation for the far villager is going to be. Leave a gap, and then we have the workstation, and then the bed is going to be on this side. So we want to inch our way down to where the workstation is going to end up. I've not had huge success if I try and push this one too far. So this is one part here where patience is rewarded. When you put these leaves down, make sure that you don't have like a workstation right here, because the villagers will jump up onto the workstation, jump onto the leaves, run away, and then de-link from stuff, and that would not be good. If you take the wrong line through here, then the workstation at the far side isn't going to link up, or the bell won't link up. So it's super important that you get this part right. And at this point here, we're basically fighting against, well, we've got 8 villages already stacked on the top, and the 9th one, and this is the 10th village here. So we're coming down on this line here. I have tried various other lines, and they haven't worked. This one here has been reliable, and I've stacked every single village in here by doing this. So now that we get here, we need to put the pillow of the bed here. So he's going to link up here at some point. Pillow of the bed here, workstation here, and then we can put the workstation for the villager over the far side here. So we've got the villager in the bed, doesn't need to be sleeping in the bed, just needs to be connected to the bed. Then we've got this villager's workstation here. We'll put the workstation here for the villager on the far side and wait for it to connect. Sometimes it doesn't connect. If it doesn't connect, then leave it in place, fly over to where the other villager is. I guess it kind of loads him in, and then he'll be able to connect after that point. That's not a survival thing. The same thing has happened in creative worlds as well. All right, so there we go. He has connected. So now that he's connected, take your time with this step. I think this may have been responsible for some of the problems because the game has to process all the stuff that is going on. So once we've got this here, this workstation is connected to the villager over the far side here. You want to make sure that this villager here is close to here so that he can see what you're doing, because otherwise it doesn't register that you've broken the workstation. So we break the workstation. I usually give it about 20 seconds. If you rush this step, especially on an SMP or maybe on a low-end device, then I'm guessing what happens is the game struggles to make the recalculations, because what's happening is at the moment the village is 179 blocks long, or 180 blocks long with this here, so 32 blocks out from that. There, what we're doing as soon as we break this bed here, now the border of the village is here, and it actually kind of snaps back to the far side and then pushes 32 blocks from the bed of the villager over the far side there. The villager over the far side there becomes the new chief, and now we can get rid of this one. So now that we've got this workstation linked and we've got one giant village, the next step is to connect the bell. And if everything has gone well, then we will be able to connect the bell just fine. And it will be happy days. So as you can see, we've connected 8 on this row here. And we've connected 1 here, so that's 9 villagers. Now for the moment of truth. Will he connect? Yes, wonderful. That is village 10 stacked, ready to go. And so now you just repeat that entire process. If you have any issues with any of these steps or I didn't explain it properly, make sure you let me know in the comments below. If you successfully stack a raid village, make sure you let me know. I would love to hear from you. Subscribe for more awesome videos, and I will see you in the next one.